Welcome everybody to the After Dark Show. I'm Don Rogers. Tonight we have a really good guest. He's actually yet another person that I've met through BG Cast, Stephen Stathis, and through the X Spiritual panel. And we've had some conversations on Telegram, some few laughs. And he's actually a really interesting person. His short name is Nick. He goes by the screen name Verdis deMosays. I knew I was going to choke on that. But he also recently told me in our private chat that he does have another moniker that he likes going by. Pickle Nick! Nick, welcome to the After Dark Show, man.
Yeah, Pickle Nick! That's great. Well, hopefully I'll be a little bit more sane than our good buddy Rick Sanchez. And I haven't annoyed any squirrels, so we should be in good shape.
Yeah, you want to watch those squirrels, man. I see a lot of the words. That is something you want to be over.
Oh, hell yeah. It's the squirrel IA agents. They're dangerous ones.
Yes. Oh, the wife's laughing already. That might be the most enthusiastic introduction I think I've done.
Well, I've really enjoyed talking with you over time, Don. It's nice to finally be on the After Dark and get a chance to actually sit down on the podcast instead of, BSing in the back room like usual. So.
Oh, absolutely. We booked this so long ago, and I was like, just the stuff in the chat that we have, I could have talked to him about that. I could have done a show about that. It's funny. But one of the things we have talked about in the background, and we were actually kind of kicking around the idea of getting an online interactive game going of D&D if we could ever get it together. This came across my Facebook page the other day, and I just want to get your feeling. I don't know if it's legit or not, but
I'm not rolling that one. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that one looks a little intimidating.
That is interesting. Ancient D20.
Yeah, I had never seen such a thing. I assumed most of the dice in Dungeons and Dragons were invented from Dungeons and Dragons, but no, that's in, what did that say again? 200 BCE, ancient 20-sided die, which is like, okay, so what were they using? I'd just like your thoughts on what you think they might have been using that for.
That era, it also could have been Roman, because 200 BC, you had the kind of the Ptolemaic influence going in as well. So it could well be a Roman artifact as well, kind of crossing over. But I mean, tabletop gaming is the only place I've seen a D20 used for anything, and I've never even heard of that. So it's also entirely possible we have a new Mandela where we're rippling back.
Absolutely. Like I was hardcore nerd, and I know it's like, don't call people names, but you know what? I am a nerd, so I can say it's the only N word I can say. What up, my nerd? We can actually say that. We can get away with that, right?
But you get away with more if you move to America.
Yeah, I love being a nerd, but I had to nerd out about that. I was like, I played D&D for many, many years, Magic the Gathering, just ridiculous amounts of games, but like I had never seen or heard of that.
I'd never seen that either. That feels more like a out of place object than anything to me, and I'd be curious to see what the symbols on the side actually correspond to, because that's not something. I mean, that's a lot harder to make than a cube or a sphere, so that's interesting. Also, if you're curious, I used to always be the guy that got roped into being the cleric, so.
I'm just going to geek out for a minute because I know you'll be one of the people that will appreciate this story, and maybe people in my audience as well. We always had this dungeon master, and he tried to make the games interesting, so we also used to partake in a lot of cannabis while we played, and my friend at the time, Jamie, in a haze, was writing his character and went to write Vorpal Sword, but missed a letter and misspelled something. It was written as an Orville Sword. Well, Dwayne, having the sense of humor he did, every time Jamie rolled a 20, the sword shot popcorn.
That is great.
Yeah, instead of a decapitation, you get Orville Redenbacher. That
I, for after the fight, that's a really nice fringe benefit. Get a little hungry, need to rehydrate, bam, you got some popcorn. I like it.
Yeah, he was so choked.
Actually, you'd probably enjoy one of the campaigns that a buddy of mine used to run where it was set in the traditional sword and sorcery era, but every time an action was taken, he'd roll a D100, and we're like, what are you doing? Because he would not explain. And at one point, the fighter in our group swings his sword, and it's like, clack, clack, that's a 2. Uh, your two-handed mace just turned into a fish. And he's like, what? And as the game went on, the story came out that the whole thing was being altered by some kid in the future who had figured out how to hack reality with his laptop and was just experimenting with commands, and that's what the D100 was. This is way before I knew anything about reality potentially being a simulation or holographic or our ability to influence it, but it was just an interesting little ripple. I was like, that is interesting.
That is cool.
It was a chaotic campaign too.
I don't doubt it. We'll get talking about subjects in a second, but I think the proudest I ever was is I DM'd a game and I went to City Hall and got topographical maps of the city that I lived in at the time, right? Which I couldn't believe that to a 13-year-old kid, right? I just walked in the City Hall. I'm like, yeah, I would like topographical maps. And I ended up doing an entire campaign with the topographical maps of the city I lived in, but it was hundreds of years in the past, right? So like none of the buildings, everybody knew what the map was, but we had rolled it back like hundreds of years into the past and played it there, right? It was kind of a neat thing. Yeah.
That is. And be like, I claim this land as my own. I will live here in 400 years.
Right. Right there.
No, that sounds like a good campaign, and I'd actually never thought to do that.
Yeah, I don't know if you can still
do that for BattleTech.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll still just hand out topographical maps with this day and age, but yeah, back then, that's 30 blah, blah years ago, right? So,
actually, the U.S. Geographical Service you can actually download the topographical maps for basically anything in the U.S. Directly from their website. So that'd be easy to do. Ideas.
No. Yeah. So one of the things we wanted to hit on, actually, I'm going to ask you the question first because Stephen and I both do it, and I won't make it as difficult because Stephen really explains it. I guess the easiest way for me to ask this question is, when did you realize that the things that we were told in school and by our parents and, general understanding wasn't exactly the way reality actually worked? Like, was there one thing or was it kind of a slow awakening? How did that really come about?
Well, in my case, I was not able to have a normal childhood. A lot of growing up, I was back, 92, Dad got big into Ross Perot. He was running third-party candidate in the U.S., and it sent Dad down all sorts of rabbit holes. He started doing the same procedure that most of us have, which is get a hold of every single thing you can get your hands on and read it. Of course, before the internet, that involved, many bookcases. So I wasn't conventionally taught necessarily. Like, I'd read Bill Cooper on the weekends, and he had T. Townsend Brown's book, Sea of Energy, in which we float. So there was a lot of stuff that had been rattling around in there, but it was fragmented. Like, somebody handed me the jigsaw puzzle in the box, shook it up, and said, here you go. I had the pieces, but I didn't have the picture. as life went on, it turned into religion, very, very fundamentalist Christian upbringing, read the Bible front to back, knew a lot of the Hebrew, how that is actually a fascinating language. And a lot of this stuff just didn't fit together. And it actually took me going through kind of my prodigal years, and not as in child prodigy, but more like prodigal son from the Bible, of I just threw everything out. I said, these beliefs I can't follow. I had to drop. I had to erase everything I thought was true. And I didn't realize I was doing that. I just kind of rejected everything and went, okay, I'll take what I know and rebuild. And that was kind of a long process through early 2000s to the 2000 teens. And then come 2020, I threw everything out, including my own preconceptions of who I was, and just went experiential. So it was kind of a layered process of gaining the fragmented information, getting worldviews that weren't solid, and then finally breaking down who I was into what really mattered. So it wasn't like I really had an aha moment. Like some people get a massive download and they've got it. It was more layers of really tearing down and making space, because I always joke about the man's brain is a box and you put stuff in the box. If you want to put more stuff in, you have to take something out. And what I ended up taking out was the framework that all these pieces were hanging on. And at the end of that, my year of hell in 2020, I had a box with a bunch of pieces, and I threw out everything I wasn't sure of and just said, I'm open minded. I don't know where this is going to go. And it was a run. Well, let me tell you. But I kind of envy people that have those big aha moments where they get a massive download and all of a sudden they know everything. But where I came from was more an unbuilding process and a reconstruction process than it was ground up construction. You know, put it in construction terms, I guess.
Yeah, no, I dig it. And like, I did have mine like a huge blowout, but there's also been stages of understanding too. So like, I like to borrow from Chris Matthew. Like I don't have a belief system even. I have a current understanding. It's basically a current understanding of how reality works, I think. Right. But even that, I'm still going through the layers and layers and layers of like, well, shit, okay, then I have to change this about that. Like it I totally get what you're saying. Like there is that leveling up process.
And I think the biggest thing, and I've seen this as a common thread through all of us that have gone through this process, it takes it from a yes or no. Like, I'm just in Christian terms, I put it in my own I'll put it in my own past terms. When I was just a Christian, just operating out of the Bible, a question would be asked like, is it wrong to be gay? Yes. Now it's more like a probability. Is it wrong? Well, depends on the circumstances, depends on the state. It's
Yeah.
more a probability of, well, how much are we talking here? And a lot of my beliefs, some things like what Christ said about love your neighbor as yourself, both of those things, love God, on this hangs everything. I'll post that at like a 99.5% probability of being solid. You can build on that. Other stuff, like I read the law of one, I take it for what it's worth. I'm not going to say this is definitely something that I can build off of. And I've noticed that with our whole community, with people that have gone through these processes, nothing is nailed down as this is 100% gospel truth. You must believe it. There's degrees. Every piece interacts with itself. So you can't go, I know this to be true. I can't even be sure this is real.
It's
How can I
not.
be sure of a concept is real? But then you're into, well, what is this? What is this physical body? What is this world around us? What are these? Why is there air?
Well, yeah. No, I love that. And it's something that I've talked about before too, is exactly what you're explaining, is a lot of people in this community, and I just call it this, it's almost like spiritual voodoo, because you're like, okay, this from this makes sense, right? And this from over here makes sense to me as well. And like what that lady in the crystal shop told me, I kind of understand that on a base principle. So I'm going to bring that into my understanding too. You're basically creating your own understanding of how things work by what resonates with you.
Yeah. And, as much as I hate to quote Paul sometimes, he did say, seek out your own salvation. It's like, that's not a big step from figure this world out yourself. We're here to learn. And
I'm,
people get so stagnant with thinking, well, I've learned it all. I've learned this.
yeah,
God, I used to be that annoying Christian kid who was like, but you haven't thought about this. Actually, it's like, now I'm like, yeah, I mean, maybe your point's valid. I'll think about it. You
yeah,
know, I don't really, it sounds weird to say that because I'm not defending it. It's like people can say, well, what are your values? What is the world built on? What are you doing? It's like the more you learn, the more amorphous all these concepts get. You know,
yeah.
it's so fluid. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm rambling. I apologize.
No, I dig it. It's a free flowing conversation. And I do believe, like, exactly what you're saying. And then sometimes you get smacked with a paradigm shift concept that just comes out of nowhere, and you're like, "Oh, that changes everything." Well, now I have to go back. No, it is. I've come into my own understanding, but I'm never going to say I understand everything, because honestly, I don't know shit. A lot of what I've understood is channeled from other versions of myself, and like just random information that my subconscious has absorbed over my life. I was actually telling Sam from Metaphysical Fat about the fact, like, when I used to drink, I would turn on the Discovery Channel before I passed out, right? Just like a subliminal tape. I think I absorbed a shit ton of it, because I'll pull out knowledge that I have no idea where I learned it, but it's absolutely correct,
Yep,
right? Like I
yep.
tell a story about the one night at the bar. Me and my buddy were there, and I was, trying to make time with this girl, and he comes out and he tells it's an intelligent conversation. She was actually an astrophysicist, right? And he's
Nice.
like, "Shut up! You don't know what you're talking about." We're all drunk, right? And she turns and looks at him and goes, "Actually, he's kind of like a drunk redneck tattooed Sheldon right now," because it was pulling information from subconscious and like into reality, and like it. I might have been drunk channeling too. I don't know, but it was absolutely intelligent and cohesive for the conversation, and like she thought I was brilliant. I can't even remember what I said.
Well, you were. Maybe not the
Yeah.
next morning, but,
No,
you know,
and that's not an alcohol ad saying booze made me smart. I'm just saying it loosened me up enough to tap into my subconscious, and I suddenly had a great understanding of astrophysics.
yep. It's amazing how Molson's can open the throat chakra sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh,
No, I hate words. I
I
love
know.
reading. I love words, I love language, but I'm sitting here just staring at the screen going, "Nah," because I've got about 14 different trains of thought that just all derailed in the middle at once. I'm like, words suck. I'm waiting for things to become psychic.
Oh, the wife and I are working on it. We have actually freaked people out, like finishing each other's sentences. I've actually typed stuff in other people's chat, and she'll look at me and go, "That was mine," right? Like, because we're so energetically similar, and understand each other on such a spiritual level. There is a type of communication, and we've actually had instances where we've interacted with other people. We were joking around in the kitchen the one day with another podcast host, like he wasn't here. We were talking, and she starts doing the Sesame Street bring bring bring, like the alien bring,
Yep.
right, joking around, like calling Rock Castaldo. I shit you not, within minutes he hit me up on Facebook. I'm like, why did you message me? He's like, I don't know. I just felt like I needed to talk to you. I'm like, holy shit. Like, there is a frequency that I do think I haven't figured out how to integrate free flowing thought into the collective conscious, but I'm picking up on it. Right? It's strange.
No, it makes sense. And I think we're at that unfortunate transitional state between third and fourth density where we're really low fourth, where these things, this collective consciousness is starting to permeate. Like, I've actually started hearing that phrase on topics that are outside of our realm. Like, I was listening to, it was a video about the Sig Sauer incidents. And I kid you not, the guy was sitting there going, well, the gun community is a very niche community, but this has entered the collective consciousness. Everybody's hearing about it. And I'm just looking at it like, get some random gun channel that's starting to talk about use the same language we do when we talk about things like this thing or that thing is entering collective consciousness and spreading out. He's literally using the same verbiage as we are, talking about bigger concepts. We've gotten to a point where it's really awkward because we still only know how to operate this on this physical level, but we're gaining the ability to operate on that higher fourth density state. And there's been a lot of weird things happening like that where, like, just before we sat down, I was sitting there, I was talking with my boy, and I was like, man, I really could use another cup of coffee because it's been a day. And I look up, and my lady's walking around the corner with a hot cup of coffee and just goes, here you go. Like, uh, thank you. Like, she got it out, poured it, warmed it, made it, brought it over literally 5 seconds before I thought, I'd really like that.
I think that's happening a lot in this community, especially with like-minded couples. I've heard similar stories from other guests backstage and on the show that they're like connecting with their spouses and significant others on a previously unrecognizable level. So I do think we are ascending.
Yeah.
And I was getting into this before about how I've developed the thought, it's not even really an understanding, that the ascension itself might actually be our emotional frequency, because we are frequency projectors as human beings, and each emotion that we have has an electromagnetic pulse to it, right? So if enough people were in a constant state of, I'm not going to say bliss, but level happiness, it would seem logical that that would have an effect, basically like the 100th monkey effect.
Yep.
Like everybody would start to feel better and everybody would start to communicate. And I think that's where a lot of this is going to unlock, is when we're not so polluted with society and start kind of more resembling a community, we're going to regain some of these abilities.
I think so too. And when I was talking with my Syrian contact a few weeks ago, she said that you don't take actions, you make choices. And I was like, what? Put it in dummy terms, please. I grind steel for a living. This is big. She's like, you don't, we look at things and think, I choose to drink this, I'm going to drink this coffee. It's like, okay. She's like, you're not drinking the coffee. You made a choice to drink the coffee, and the actions flowed from the choice. The choice is the important part. And it's one of those things that's been rattling around a lot. And the effect that I think we're causing, because I do think we're directly influencing this, not on a conscious, woo woo, I'm trying to manipulate it, but just merely by existing, is that we have made choices. And because of those choices, actions happen. When you look at your average person in Walmart, to use the American example, I don't know if you guys are afflicted with that
Yeah,
particular brand of plague or not, but
yeah, we
you
have
go
that
into
disease.
Walmart. Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't help you there. Uh, there's you go in there and look at just the average person. They're not making choices; they're making reactions. They're going in and they're just putting the same things in their cart that you can tell they obviously do, the same name brands, the same this and that. They're simply reacting. We're the ones that are making choices, that are taking, then actions are flowing from those choices. But it's a strong harmonic node that interacts with everybody around who also is making choices. As they start making choices, ours are producing that ripple effect where it will subtly change how they choose. And as a result, you have lots of people that are just neutral, they're just reacting. We're actually making choices. Now, previously, the way it used to be in before all these timeline alterations, think mid-September day in 2000 era, nobody was consciously choosing. Most people were just accepting and reacting. So the very, very small number of negative people, am I off?
No, I was saying
Oh,
I was accepting and reacting. I was doing exactly what you're explaining.
same here.
Yeah.
But the very small number of negative people in this world could actually affect things on a much greater level because they were the only ones making choices. Now, as we have it, we've got this great community. There's lots of people. I run into random people on Twitter all the time. It's like, you are one of us. You just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
But we're consciously making choices and we're drowning out the noise of that little bitty negative signal just by choosing to be awake, choosing to grow. It's like you're not always going to have a good day. You're not always going to be some, you know, perfectly centered ninth dimensional channeling entity. You're going to have days where it's, bloody hot and you're camped in front of the fan sweating. You're kind of neutral there, but you're still making these conscious choices. And more importantly, you're not just neutral. You're not just reacting. So the more of us make these decisions that these actions flow from, the more it's going to affect the world around us. And people who are kind of right on that edge are going to start going, hey, I can make a choice. I can choose to learn. I can choose to act better. it's going to start rapidly ramping until negative has been drowned out. As a point that I like telling people, you know, you guys probably don't study the American Revolution near as much as we do here, but during the Revolutionary War, only 6% of the US population was actually involved in it. It was about 1.5% for the British and 4.5% for the rebellious colonials. Only 6% actually was involved in it. 94% of the population was just kind of like, yeah, it's not going to take many people to start spreading this ripple, especially since we don't have to rely on midnight runs and paper. You can't block these signals.
I just have to interject something before we get too far away from collective conscious. About 60 seconds. Oh, of course, it's not going to show it. 60 seconds before you said ripple effect, I wrote down ripple effect. Like, I wish nice. My camera would show the. So yeah, I definitely, there's some connection. I'm just going to throw up a couple of quick comments here. Cosmic Voice. Hey, Phil. Another example of that, we think the fall caused the bruise, but it can be equally said that the bruise caused the fall, but we observe it in linear progression, but it's not actually.
Yep. Makes sense.
Yes.
And it could be very easy to go, that was bruised. What happened? Well, obviously I fell, so you fell.
Yeah. Oh, like I've had that conversation with Spinja, like, where did that come from? I don't know. Right. And then Kyle, hey Kyle, good to see you. How many of us have to choose not to shop at Walmart to create chains? I intentionally try to avoid buying anything there, but is there a breaking point? I would like to almost reference the South Park episode where, like, there is something inherently chaotic about Walmart, and I don't know how it exists on such a scale, because it shouldn't even make money. Like, I'd like to hear your thoughts, Nick.
Well, I worked for the damn company for 5 years, 3 years on overnights doing various stuff, and then 2 years as a department manager. So, 90% of Walmart is habit based. People have the habit of shopping there. If you want groceries, go to Aldi, they're cheaper. If you want miscellaneous stuff, almost every other place is cheaper. They've become such a habit, and that's what they operate off of. Also, if incidentally, being that I used to have access to the department manager functions on their handheld units, if you want to screw Walmart, buy name brand. Their margin is only like 1 to 2% on name brand. On their house brand, it's like 80 to 90%. So you can actually screw them on money by buying name brand there because they make almost nothing off it. They carry that. They carry the name brand. Like if you go buy Ziploc bags, they put the Ziploc bags up there, but they put their bags right in front of them in the aisle, and they're getting like 90% profit margin on their bags. The Ziplocs, they're getting 1%. They basically carry it for advertising. So if you want to know a little extra way to burn the system down, there you go.
That
in timeless words of Walt Whitman.
I think you just got a little more
fancy. Used to say, resist much, obey little.
I dig it. I like that.
Yeah.
So we were touching on
just to briefly come off what you'd said though. We're in an age of independent creation. You don't need to go to the movie theater for a good show. You can go to YouTube. There are people on YouTube doing far more interesting, creative, fully voice acted, fully acted stuff. If you want to go watch a movie, I can give you a half dozen YouTube channels you can go listen to or watch that are better than anything Hollywood's made. If, you know, like if I want to order a sweater, I'd much rather give my measurements to Spinja and be like, hey, could you make me one? Rather than
She
going to
can.
Walmart and spending just as much.
Yeah.
We are in an age of independent creation, and anybody creating is worth supporting because every dollar that goes to one of our friends goes to somebody that you like is a dollar that's not going into the corporate machine. And even if it's just such a thing, right on. Could you make me like a mohawk hat?
Yes. Do you want a lizard? Like
Yeah.
a lizard cat?
um, but like people don't people do not think about just the extent to which they can burn the system simply by supporting independent creators. And yes, I know YouTube is Google and it's big business, but you're taking money away from Hollywood by watching YouTube, especially the After Dark show, instead of going and watching a movie or
Yeah.
watching Netflix. These are the things that can actually add up to make a big difference because you're disassembling systems by not participating in them, for what it's worth.
I I, I love this. I'm in the film and but I usually watch. We love you,
Sorry.
Jason. Wife. Um, before we get too far away from it, when we were talking about collective consciousness, it's something that Kyla Spinja actually brought onto my radar is the amount of people, and you were kind of referencing this too, that are creator beings on autopilot, right? Because we get programmed, we just do things by habit, but we're creating the reality, the system, the structure, the construct, whatever you want to call it, that they want, right? It's that stage of creation that you're talking about that we need to shake each other out of. And I think we're doing a nice job within our community. But like,
Yep.
do you think that there's a lot of predictive programming just feeding the creative conscious creators, I'm guessing, just an autopilot program? I couldn't get the words out of my mouth.
Words are hard. That's a quote that can go on my tombstone. Uh, there definitely is. Most people, as I said, are reactive. They're not active. And by the way, proactive is not a word. That's a corporate buzz term and annoys the English side of my brain. But the problem isn't so much that they're in the habit, because we all have habits. I drive basically the same route to and from work every day. It's a habit. I like going that way. The problem is that they're not aware that their thinking is a habit. That when they get in the car, they turn on the radio. That when they're doing this, they do that. They're creator beings, and you'll see people like I'm sure we've all seen like artists and game designers that will build these incredible worlds, but they won't build a world for themselves. It's very much that sort of situation. They don't realize because, I mean, a predictable reality is nice. It's nice to know that you wake up and go to work and pay your taxes and all this. The routine is comforting, legitimately. But most people have never considered the concept that there's a different reality that you could pick. Like, I know like I said, when I went through my year of hell, I realized that everything is malleable, everything is fluid, everything can be what you want it to be. You just make your choices. Most people have never had the opportunity to realize that there are choices. And honestly, I'm not political anymore. I used to be a lot more so. Right now, I look at it as order and chaos. And right now, it's just chaos. And the chaos doesn't matter. People are like, oh, release this list, release that list, do this law, make that law, overturn this, do that, talk about this. The chaos is the part that matters because you can't be stagnant in this environment right now. There is no way to just sit back and go, la la la, life is the same as it always has been. You literally would have to be living underground in a fallout bunker for the last 20 years to think that everything was normal. It's just impossible to escape this chaos, which is good because then people go, well, what can I do from here? What am I going to do? Even if they're thinking small scale, like maybe I should get, some water jugs and put it back in case the power goes out, in case there's a bad storm. People have to think, they have to gain that awareness, not of anything specific, but the possibility that things are not stable and they need to start thinking. Doesn't matter how small, like you said earlier, it's that first pebble out that starts the avalanche. Doesn't matter what pebble.
Exactly.
um, it's an age of possibility. Chaos breeds possibility. The key is bypassing the greed and power barons so that way it doesn't just end up back in the loop of, hard times make good men. The
Yeah.
circle. I want to break that cycle. I want people to realize that the thoughts they need are bigger. One thing at a time, though. We'll
Yeah.
start with getting them to turn off CNN or CBC first. Then we'll worry about building a society based on goodness, equality, and abundance.
Absolutely. And I misspelled that. I was replying to Kyle. He's like, waves create or ripples create waves. And I'm like, yes. And waves are the creation of reality.
Mm-hmm. And
This is a
if you think about it
function that we live.
from the double experiment slit, the waves and the particles that make everything up are interchangeable. So quite literally, those waveforms are creating reality. See also
Absolutely.
ancient Egyptian D20.
Yeah, right.
I'm not
That
rolling
those,
that one. If that one comes
yeah,
up as a 1 and I end up with a mummy in the house, I'm no. Just
that
keep
just
it.
no, no.
I'm not crit
I,
failing that one.
no, I don't know what that says on it, and I don't want to play.
Yes.
Something we were talking about, just to kind of shift gears here before the show, was you've been having some interesting integration. And it's just ironic that you mentioned that because I as well have gone through some stuff this week. So I would love for you to dive into that. And I have a couple of things I'm willing to share too. Oh,
Okay, so how interesting can I make things? I will leave that
I,
up to you.
it's going to Rumble. So, and it would be only fitting because the only
There.
banned video I have is David. So
I'm sure he considers that a compliment.
I think he does.
Okay, so in the course of my life, I had to learn, as I was explaining to our dear and beloved other Canadian scholar, Diana, I am not a book learner. I am an intuitive learner. And by that, I mean, I run into something, break my nose, and see just how hard it actually is before it gets through my head. So, yeah, most of my life has been learning things the hard way or the dark way, which is useful in an era of chaos because, hey, most people have had a lot of dark in their life. There have been a lot of things that have cycled through. How's it going? there have been a lot of things that have cycled through my life with, like, sexually tied stuff, fetish related stuff that always bugged me, but I could never get to the bottom of. And one had kept coming up lately. And it's like, I'm right there. There's a concept here that I'm not getting. There's one last puzzle piece to make the whole thing come in. And it kept coming back to the balance and relationship between the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And it's like, I mean, come on, look at the world around you. You can tell it's all out of whack. It's no surprise that most of us will have to go through that reintegration process. And I've always by nature been a fairly patient, peaceful man. I'm not the one to go light fires. I'm the guy that would rather talk about it than punch it out. It's my nature. It's not to say I'm harmless or fluffy, but I tend to prefer being peaceful and mellow. Well, David dropped a video. It was his I Love You, Lilith video. And that sparked off a chain of reactions of tapping into that dark feminine energy. Not the mother who wants to bear children, the Valkyrie who wants to bear spear. That kind of opposite side of it. And what I ended up realizing was that a lot of the imbalance in me had come from the fact that my masculine state tended more toward the protective, creative, craftsman side of the masculine energy, the builder, not so much the warrior. And it was like, that's interesting. And that video, the audio kept kind of getting into my head. And I was at work on Wednesday and I'm sitting there. Yeah, I polish stainless for a living. It's like reverse artwork. I'm taking stuff out, turning rough metal into a mirror. And all of a sudden I had this perception in my mind's eye. You know how you'll kind of like see things in your mind as an overlay, almost like you're feeling an image. Mm-hmm. And I had this image of just standing on an endless, completely flat mirror of an ocean, just like standing on water, totally reflective as far as I can see, which is a really disorienting thing to experience when you're running power tools. Let me tell you, you're looking down, it's like, boom. And I was seeing a reflection below me and it wouldn't really coalesce. So I started like feeling into it. And I realized the reflection on the other side of me was the feminine side of me, but that chaotic feminine, you know, mama bear, that desire, like the protector side, the in Roman mythology, Artemis is both the goddess of war as well as the goddess of fertility and home, where it's that duality, but it was the chaotic side that was the one I needed. That fire, that willingness to speak out, to stand up, to go do things. And it felt like an absolute fire got lit inside me. I was a few times having to get down on hands and knees and like touch the ground and be like, okay. I went to try to ground and in the grass and found a puddle, and that was a really disorienting experience, feeling like you're standing on the water and then you touch water. It's like, nah, this is not good. I don't need to ground today. Go back inside. But it's been a huge chunk of myself, and I'm still integrating it. I felt off absolutely all week, like really off. You know, I don't know if you have the perception where your time doesn't feel right. Like a drive
Hmm.
home that should take 30 minutes feels like it just took you an hour.
Hmm.
Even though the clock says it was 30 minutes, you know it wasn't 30 minutes. Everything's been off, but this integration has been really weird because been seeing, like, just in the cultural zeitgeist, you're seeing a lot more of that strong feminine energy, not the peaceful goddess meditating on a mountaintop, but that strong goddess energy. Um, I look, the only thing I know about the social zeitgeist is what I see on Twitter, and that's, as you know, very random. But like the negative media had that just absolutely visceral reaction to an actress posing for a jeans commercial, and they're like,
Yeah,
"Oh, take that down. This is horrible." Well, the response from the company was basically, "Oh,
and it's
we're
about
sorry.
time.
We didn't realize she looked that hot. We're sending our advertising executives to denim sensitivity training so they can apologize to the jeans." It was just a
Yeah,
giant middle finger of, no.
yeah,
Is it related? That's some pretty strong goddess energy. Oh, come after our girl? Go fuck yourself.
yeah.
It's not one to one, but that energy is percolating out. It's like I end up having a massive divine feminine reaction, and then you see that same sort of energy rippling slightly out through the public. It's interesting, and I'm not saying I caused that. I'm not some great guru who's altering things, but it's interesting to see that I'm getting that ripple at a very massive scale, but it's still a ripple that's going out among the neutral population. And
Yeah.
that was an interesting one. And, also we've got all this talk of ripples on the same week as there was a tsunami.
Well, exactly. And I think what you're getting at too is really key because I remember on Steven's Divine Masculine panel that we did, one of the things we did discuss is like the integration of male and female is key for even understanding self, right? So like
Yeah.
it's no doubt like I believe we're in some very very interesting times, and some call it a spiritual war, some call it the shift. I think it's all of the above, and I think there is some absolutely crazy shit going on in realities that we do not understand. There's things changing energetically throughout this entire reality, and it for those of us that are aware with eyes to see, are seeing it and feeling it and hearing it. It is absolutely, we're on the precipice of some type of shift.
Yeah. And I mean,
Um,
culturally, you can see that all over whatever direction people are bracing for something.
Absolutely. And like I was saying earlier, I had my own integration. Like we were talking about, I do tend to meditate before I go to sleep, and I was very, very tired earlier in the week because it's been an ass kicker of a week. And in that state that you were talking about, this is why Spinja and I were talking about the exact same thing, that state of not asleep, not awake. I've lived very, very different personas of myself throughout my life that no longer have any purpose or serve me. And it felt like each one of them was coming to the frontal cortex of my mind, and I could feel being them for a second or two. And then I
Hmm.
was like, I don't like this because I don't need that anymore. And I was like, what do I do with this? And I guess it's integrating. But what I was doing is like, I don't need this part of me. There are useful things. And if I need to remember, I will. But I'm going to put that, and I was like, I'm going to put that just underneath my very first childhood memory. And I was doing this in a meditation, and then like the next one would whoosh to the surface after I dealt with that. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, it was just this process of each past persona of myself just blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, I understand what was wrong with me that time. I'm going to put you away down here. Right. It's been a very strange week.
Yeah. It's not every day that you end up becoming the human sorting hat for alternate timeline versions of yourself. You're like, ow, okay, Hufflepuff. And I mean, you're probably, see, I've had this weird feeling with things being off too. Like you'll look at something you know is there, but it feels wrong. I've got a feeling that a lot of timelines are getting resolved because after I had that big integration, I kind of was having a channeled conversation with my feminine counterpart. And okay, I'm just going to say she's an asshole. I like it, but very, very to the point. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, something is very weird that this all happened so quickly. You know, because in the past, integrations would take months, weeks. This was just like a few days and schmack. And she's like, they're trying to artificially rope timelines on top of this one. And it's like, I was talking with Sam about it. She's like, it feels like we're dodging timelines before they coalesce around ours. She's like, yeah, it does feel like whiplash because we're trying to neutralize these as they hit. So if this week you've been sorting down those alternate versions, that might be attempts to overlay prime timeline with negative versions or at least slivers of energy, and you're just tink, okay, you go to the back of the line, get to the back of the bus, don't get off at the next stop, and neutralizing that energy instead of allowing it to find a place here. Because like I've been nudged that some of the bad habits I have I need to keep in order to be here present enough to do this stuff. I'm like, really? It's like, yeah, you're playing on hard mode, deal with it. But it also gives you enough of that knowledge to recognize when something is external or alternate, you know, parallel timeline. You can feel that discordant energy. And I think you may well have just been defusing hooks that we're trying to pull around in this.
I'm just
Theory.
reading the chat as this is relevant to a lot of people. Like, I know even within the small collective that we hang out with, it has just been that way lately. Like, there is absolutely your partner. I'm not going to call her an asshole. That's between you guys. Your partner is absolutely correct in what she's saying. And like, I've experienced the collapsing of timelines to the extent that I've had personal Mandela effects, like nothing big, but the weird one was, okay, the AC or the fan in my work truck, right? You turn up the AC, you turn up the fan, it's in your face. Well, now the fan button is backwards. Full is now the other way. It was always fan and air conditioning the same way, and now it's this way and this way. And I'm like, that's not right. Something changed. I damn well know. Spinge has been in my truck. Yeah. I damn well know it goes this way. They both go this way to turn on the air conditioning and this way for heat. Like she is 100% correct. But
I can believe it.
I just wanted to touch on that because, like, yeah, I know you're big into Mandela effects. I'm having personal level Mandela effects while I'm collapsing these timelines or whatever I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of these things don't make any sense either. Like,
No.
I've gone looking for stuff and had it missing. Like,
Yeah.
I was just really weird stuff. Like, I was looking for a handle for a bag the other day. The bag wasn't there. It was like a carry-on bag strap. I was looking for it. It wasn't there, but there was an unopened pack of cigarettes in there from back when I used to smoke. I'm not just
Yeah.
going to leave a pack. It's
No.
like, this is really weird. I go looking for something in a place I would never look and find something that I would never have. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah. Something shifted into one another.
Yeah, don't lay in the front of the fridge.
Yeah.
I almost, this sounds kind of weird, but I almost wonder if the dial is a sign that things are about to go from cold to hot because they're reversed.
Yeah. I do have a couple more comments that have popped up along the way. I actually starred them. I love how it's expensive as hell, but I love having the paid version of StreamYard because I can do more stuff and I don't lose stuff. So Kyle was in the line with chaos Greek mythology. Artemis has represented duality with her own identity, but also has twin brother further display of the principle of duality. And that was followed up talk about divine feminine, divine masculine being complementary. I think you're right, Kyle. And agree with Don. It's everything spiritual warfare, awakening out of time and space. Amazing times to be here and awake. Absolutely, Karen.
Indeed. And to the point on those two being complementary, I think part of this split that we've had, like I said, I tended to be masculine energy, but more the creative craftsman side of it, like the watchmaker working with his watches, or the gunsmith building the guns, not the guy going out there and using them, or the sailor using it to find where a warship is. It was more the passive side of that, whereas my divine feminine, and when I was describing her as an asshole, it's the kind of like the etheric state, not my lady. I don't want to get beaten. That counterbalance is the strong, stable, creative man, masculine, versus the fiery tomboy who wants to go out there, tame horses, ride bulls, and kick the ass of anybody who thinks that she can't. And I realized this over the course of integrating it. I had been kept from that because this is a phase, 2020 to 2025 has been a phase where I needed to be internal. I needed to be crafting. I needed to be pulling thoughts together and being the watchmaker, building them into a structure. I didn't need to be out there conquering the wild frontier like Annie Oakley with her knife hands and rifle. I needed to be internal. If I had had that energy, I would not have been responsible with it, which is why it was kept separate. They are complementary, but they may not be necessary at the same time. You may be in a spot in your life where you actually don't need that because you wouldn't be doing the right thing with it. I'm not going to give a toddler a 12 gauge. Is it something he'll find useful in life? Yes. But he doesn't need it right now. So a lot of people get frustrated. I know I've been, because it felt like I was very out of balance, out of whack, like I was missing a chunk of myself, and I was. But ultimately, it wasn't playing it on hard mode. It was because I didn't need those tools yet. So I think as we start seeing this era come in where that stuff is necessary, that whichever side we need, whether that's the fire or the ice, we're starting to move into an era where we're not static anymore. That complementary power is something that's going to be very necessary. So whatever's coming, we're getting armed up for it, metaphorically speaking, of course, for the sake of anybody watching on YouTube. But I think the preparation is over. And that's why these integrations are starting to happen, because we need access to that level of force and will, stability, integration. Maybe you're somebody who is really fiery by nature. You need that counterbalance of, okay, take the fire down. Here's the tools you need. And the people who have been building those tools, hey, go use them. That's just kind of where I've been coming with it, because yes, they're complementary and together they're powerful, and well, we're being given that power right now. So buckle up, Buttercup. This is going to be a ride.
Absolutely. Before we shift gears again, Karen had one question. What are your thoughts about recent? Feel that something huge will be happening, or is it all just distraction?
I can't speak for everybody. I can't speak for the state of the world, but I was on the Q boards back in 2016, 2017, or 2017, 2018. I've known a lot of stuff for a long time. I've never felt that a point was coming that I would actually need this level of capability. We've all seen the distractions, the false flags, the, ooh, look over here stuff. But just for me, something feels different about this, because we've seen a lot of distraction in the past, but this feels new. At least from my perspective. Use your discernment. Don't take my word as gospel, but I've seen too much weird stuff happening. Yeah, I do too, Karen. I do too.
I
There
saw
are
a funny
too many unprecedented things that have been happening lately for it to feel like this is just another revolution of the squeaky hamster wheel of politics and distraction. Like, it feels different. And that's the best I can do on it, unfortunately. It just feels different. But, I trust my intuition on a lot of stuff. Like, I am a practical person. I don't go flying off and taking wild thoughts of fancy and saying crazy things, but this does feel different. And I have no idea why or what. But it feels like it's moved into a kinetic phase instead of a planning phase.
To Karen's point right there, I was actually just about to go there. My thoughts on it is there are different endings to multiple timelines. This is basically like a choose your own adventure stage of reality. And I think exactly like what we were talking about, collapsing timelines and whatnot, I think each of us is going to draw towards the one of several timeline possibilities. And that's going to be where the split actually takes place, is, those who want to be in the AI realm with the technology, and that will be their reality, and those that want to go back to sustainable living in a sense of community, that will be their reality. Those that are choosing to stay the middle path and just go on with the 3D financial construct, I think, that's going to happen with its politics and social structure. I really do think Karen's exactly right. We choose. I think we're pulling towards the timeline that most resonates with our energetic being.
I tend to agree. And I think that a lot of us, I won't say that. I think for myself, I've future me has been influencing current me and past me to stay a little bit lower and stay a little bit longer in this timeline for whatever reason, which future me has not seen fit to say. I know it all exists as a singular point, and the linear timeline is more a ball than it is a line. But for the sake of argument, I've been having to do stuff and had aspects of myself held back to keep me here longer. And I think, as much as anything, it's kind of like a hold your breath and see how many you can rescue from the sinking ship. Because one thing I did see from the result of these integrations is that people who are already, how do I even explain it? Future point, we're on that high timeline with the society of abundance, understanding, and equality. We know we are, but we have the option to solidify to that at any point. But we're trying to stay, at least for me, trying to stay low enough to help bring more people to that state, or at least give them that nudge to get there, because they've asked for help in the future, if that makes sense. Like, they regretted their choices in the future, so I'm willing to stay here to help them make a nudge and be able to jump 2 hours later. But
I actually understand that.
God, I hate words. But it feels like the urgency almost is realizing that that era of choice is coming to an end, and we're now entering that phase where, we're at the top of the hill on the roller coaster. It's gonna start just doing what it does, because once you're on the roller coaster, you're at the mercy of gravity. The choices are being made. Everybody has the opportunity to make them. If you're choosing not to make a choice, by God, you made one. Enjoy whatever Fallout world you end up playing in. Me, I want a good one. I've had enough of playing Earth on hard mode. I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll stay until that roller coaster car starts rolling, and then, sorry guys, have fun.
Yeah.
But
There's a reason I haven't slept in months.
Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of made me think
this week.
You kind of made me think while you were talking about the linear time, and it just made me write something down. Linear time is the current shared understanding of the progression of reality. And what was really funny as I was writing that, you said the word understanding as I was writing it. Like we were dead on that time. Yeah.
Yeah, I sync with you, brother.
Yeah. Hard mode. Oh, Karen's loving hard mode. Giggity. Yeah, I love it. Quagmire. Love it. Oh shit.
Sometime I want to have a bonfire with you. Just sit around some fire and talk. Probably for like 3 days doing us, but one day it will happen.
Oh, for sure. I've foresaw a lot of gatherings once some of the structure peels away from the reality that we're currently in. One of the things that I found absolutely astounding was something you brought up on Steven's show, BG Cast, and this comes from you being a metal worker, was the I can't even remember the name of it now. I'm like
the bioreactors.
Yes. I was just wondering if you can share what those are, and if you want to share a screen, I'll let you. But like, I was just sitting here with my mouth open, going, and everybody that should be on medication should definitely take their medication. None of this is medical advice, but I definitely think you should make your own choice about whether or not you need it. Um, but you shared something that left my mind completely blown because I've paid ridiculous amounts for prescriptions. I've been on large
Oh
doses of
yeah.
medication we were talking about before the show. Can you please explain what this process and what this item is?
So it's the best kept secret of the pharma industry that drugs are not, because nobody thinks about where the drugs come from. Everybody's thinking, okay, some chemical place doing like reactions and chemistry, and it's not chemistry, it's right there in the name, biopharmaceuticals. Drugs aren't built, they're grown. And the way they run it is essentially a 3 to 8,000 liter. Oh no, Jason, this gets way better. It's actually bacteria. They'll build essentially a 3 to 8,000 liter. Sorry, I have to speak in non-freedom units, but biopharma is all metric, so you're one up on me. Think of it like an 8,000 liter yogurt maker. You'll have a large stainless vessel, temperature controlled, and into that they'll add just a handful of bacteria, typically E. coli. And inside of each one of those E. coli bacteria will be the active component of the drug, like the actual molecule that's the active component of the drug. The bacteria are in a like sugar water solution with whatever nutrients it needs to create the molecules. Like we've had one that was a zinc-based compound, so the tanks were all stained with zinc. Let me tell you, that was a nightmare to clean. But they'll wait 30 days as all the bacteria multiply, because every time they divide, they regard that chemical as a part of their cellular structure, so they reproduce it when they divide. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, 16 goes exponential. Every single time it divides, it's producing another molecule of that. Now, since it's a bacteria, all they have to do is take a sample of that, run it into a storage container, drain the vessel, centrifuge out the powder from the bacterial bodies, clean it, refill it, more nutrients, more sugar, and re-add that little sample vial right back into it and just push play again. Most of these things are so automated. The company I used to work for actually did a plant at the Bayer pharmaceutical plant in Chicago. They make aspirin, basic aspirin. There was that much dust, solid like inch, 2 centimeters of dust on top of the tanks that they had to blow off in order to access them, because those tanks hadn't been opened in probably 30 years. They had been producing aspirin in the same tanks with nothing changing for 30 years. The dude said that each tank was running about $45,000 a day in profit, and they had almost 2 acres under roof.
Jeez. Yeah, that was the part where I was sitting here with my mouth open because, like,
Yep.
Like we have, I'm just kind of trying to find a comparison in my head. We have ginger starter and sourdough starter, so I understand the base process. And she's made like, God knows how many buns out of the same
Yep.
thing, and like that's essentially what they're doing is just feeding
You
it.
feed the baby, knead it, take a little extra out, feed it, keep reproducing it. The security on those facilities is absolutely insane, because if somebody opened that tank or opened a sample valve and got a little sample of that bacteria, they could take it to any bioreactor, and 30 days later, they would have a culture amount of that same drug. Those, like, those samples are insanely well guarded because you could grow that and send that out anywhere you wanted. Now, the cool part is it's not just limited to drug production. You do have to realize you can't grow stuff that will kill bacteria, but the list is pretty long. If you can find something that doesn't interact with it, you can introduce it into the bacteria and grow literally anything. It will reproduce that structure accurately every reproduction, every time, endlessly. All you need is
Like,
water, sugar, nutrients. You could,
like
one theory I have is there's been a lot of work done with carbon nanotubules for energy storage, where it's a carbon tube that'll act like a miniature capacitor, and you can build batteries out of them with a stupid quantity of energy storage. I think they said it cuts the volume by like 80% for the same storage. That won't kill a bacteria. Put it in there
no.
and just
Could
produce it endlessly.
I'm trying to think of how to articulate this because I don't think we've gotten in trouble yet. But could that process be used to reproduce, say, a respiratory infection and then have it spread throughout the populace?
Every single biopharmaceutical plant is 30 days away from deploying bioweapons. Big Pharma is no joke. All they need is a sample. And off the air, I've got an interesting story about that particular question.
Yeah, well, that's why I was like,
all of this info is open source, what I'm telling you. I got this directly from engineers at a very large biopharmaceutical company, courtesy of playing dumb hick with missing teeth and letting him show me how smart he was.
oh,
So
yeah, that works.
Oh, it's glorious. I love being underestimated. But this is all open source. It's open source in white papers and scientific documents and things with no pictures and lawyer grade language, because they're not going to hide this from you, but you do have to look for it. I never knew about it until I started building these things. And
Yeah.
I told the same story on Steven's show. The return on these is absolutely ludicrous. The company I worked for was doing a very large, I'll say it was between 10 and $20 billion production run for a company attempting to get a drug through FDA trials. They would be the first to the market with it. It was going to cost them between 10 and 20 billion for the facility and startup. Their estimated return on investment, the amount of time it would take them to pay back that amount of money, was right around 2 years.
20 billion.
Yeah, in the ballpark. Yeah. They were looking at billions in profit. 2 years to pay off the facility. And with decent maintenance, that facility is good to run for 30, 40 years, as long as it's maintained well, without any real human input.
That is insane.
So they're using the margins on these things are absolutely bonkers. But this is a technology that could be used very constructively, because I could easily see in a future world, the one I want to live in, every town having these things. So your local hospital would have her, and instead of selling expensive drugs to people, be like, hey, I need to synthesize this. We'll dispatch a medical transport with the starter for it. Take it to the hospital. They load it in there. They've got their own centrifuge and treatment plant. And you could just produce drugs on site. It's like, hey, we got a 5-tank train. We're going to do a run of insulin. Just to pull one out of the ether. I don't know if they use the bioreactors for that or not. Make a drug. Do a production run. Compound it yourself. That way it would completely decentralize the pharmaceutical industry. Every town would have access to their own pharmaceutical production, and you'd just sell a vial of it or ship out a vial of it. Hey, there's this, we just came out with a snake antivenom. It's perfectly good for copperhead bites. You've got copperheads in the area. Here's the sample. Run your own batch. Test it. Now provide it to the public at the cost of what? 30 days to run a heater.
Yeah.
The potential is nearly endless to do this as a distributed thing. And honestly, biopharma is terrified that this becomes a commonplace thing, because once the samples are out there, anybody can culture it. All you have to do is know the time and temperature. It's as easy as culturing yogurt.
Exactly. Like, I'm sitting here going, look, I have an old pressure cooker. What could I do?
The absolute kicker is the cleanliness, because
yes,
and this has happened where we actually x-ray a lot of our tanks, because if you get a hairline crack that gets contaminated and you put a batch in there and some random bacteria is in there, it can taint the entire batch. And we figured it up one time. Look, when you're at work and you're bored, occasionally you do math. Don't judge me. We figured up one time a 30-day run of the most common drug on the market, which is atorvastatin. Cholesterol med. Don't get me started on that soapbox. It was per reactor was about $7 million worth of product every 30 days. So one crack, one introduction of a contaminant, and you can completely flush all of that and just have to neutralize it, kill it, and drain it.
Oof.
These things are, I mean, if you're going to, I'd recommend get a brand new seal, disinfect the crap out of it, so that way it doesn't cross-contaminate. Unlike sourdough, which is a yeast-based, bacterial is a lot more sensitive to getting that contamination. I mean, bread starter pretty much goes, bring it, but
yeah.
Bacterial stuff is a little touchier.
Oh yeah, I was only just kind of playing around with the idea, but no, it sounds like something everybody should have. Yeah, it sounds, absolutely agree with you that it sounds like something we should definitely all have access to. Like, that is technology that should not be withheld from the general public, and it sounds like it has been for a very, very long time.
I mean, it's profitable, and honestly, I've been rolling over this a lot in my mind because, and look, over the course of history, we've seen every type of government tried, from marginally benevolent monarchy all the way to the complete hot mess that was Marxism. Fuck communism. Worst idea ever. But it's the worst idea not because the idea of share everything equally is a bad idea. It's not. It can work. But it doesn't work in the presence of greed. A desire for power, a desire for more. That scarcity mindset of, I don't have enough. And I've asked people this before because anybody who's a nerd has watched Star Trek at some point. There's no central Earth government. Everybody just lives there. There's no authoritarian, this is the rule, this is the law. Everyone just does what they want to. Now, obviously, if you're going to threaten Starfleet, there will be repercussions. But if you just want to live on a ranch in Montana and raise cows, go raise cows. What would you do if tomorrow you woke up and dilithium reactors were everywhere and energy was free? You had access to replicas. You made jokes about Quagmire, and I know what you'd do with that. You had teleporters or transporters anywhere you wanted to. Prosper, Jason. How would you measure? Would there be any point to measure? Yeah, once tomorrow. Welcome to Somalia. It would just be warlords and violence and taking, and I don't have enough, so I'm going to grab everything I can. That scarcity mindset is the key, in my view, and I'd really like everybody's thoughts on this. Leave comments, talk about it. Hunt me down on X and say, you're an idiot. But how would you handle that society if the real key is that idea of scarcity, therefore I must take? If you got rid of that, what would society look like? And honestly, I think that's one of the things Gene Roddenberry was getting at, the way he designed the society in Star Trek, was planting that seed to get us to think about what life would be like without a scarcity mindset.
Shit. That would be definitely interesting. And I apologize. I guess we're having some technical issues with the stream. I don't think it's by happenstance. We did touch on some pretty touchy subjects there. So that's probably why. I do apologize. I'm going to make sure the audio is clean before it gets out. If you guys didn't catch it, I will have the raw recording of this. I'm sorry, guys. Sometimes, weather issues and other things. But yeah. Aside from
either that or the AI system was downloading it real quickly because our child wants to learn.
Yeah, well, exactly. You mentioned people can find you on X. Where else can they find you? What are you doing? Where can they get a hold of you?
On X, of course, my handle's the same as my username down there. It's an old gaming tag that I've answered to for so long, it may as well be my name, because if somebody yells Verdis, I turn my head and look. We also are in I will have to pull the name up. It's the Collective Consciousness Creators. I can't remember. There was a group. It was started by Transcending Ascension on X. Anybody who wants to join, regular shit posting and good discussion. Open to all. It does have a join button, but you got to have a doormat. Questions are easy. So join in, jump in. I'm always up for conversation. DMs are always open. There's other places to find me, but that's the easiest and one that I check on a regular basis. A lot of this stuff is things that have been rolling around, results of downloads. I'm always up for good conversation. Just treat me fairly. I'll treat you fairly, and we'll see where everything goes. I definitely want to be on with you more, Don. I've always enjoyed our conversations, and even at the risk of burning out your Wi-Fi, it's worth it.
Absolutely, and definitely we'll have to set up another conversation. And aside from that, I'm going to say what I always say right now. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for everybody who participated. And if you can, please go outside, because it's a lot better than sitting in front of this screen. Love you guys.
Amen to that.